Good morning, Congressman. It is an honor for me to be at this table today to introduce Professor Manuel Curado, one of the great experts in the field of bioethics in Portugal. Professor Curado is a Portuguese essayist and philosopher who teaches at the University of Minho, auditor of the National Defense, and holds a doctorate cum laude from the University of Salamanca. His academic dedication and research focus on biomedical ethics, philosophy of mind, and history of ideas. Professor Curado is also director of the Senior Management course in Public Administration. He has been a visiting professor in countries such as Russia and Italy, and has worked on topics such as the intellectual history of universal language and machine translation, the problem of human consciousness and its relationship with the brain, the relationship between science and religion, among other issues. He has given more than 250 lectures worldwide and is the author of numerous books and research articles, many of which were written as a result of his teaching activity, which he developed intensely in Portugal and abroad. Fortunately, I have had the pleasure of listening to him on other occasions as he collaborates assiduously with the University of Vigo. Without further ado, I thank Professor Curado again for his presence and generosity in sharing his knowledge with us today, and I yield the floor to him. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Are you sure that I need to say something to them? Are you sure?
Yeah.
I thank everybody for having me here. Dear friends, I've prepared this, not something else, just this for you. And this is what I have to say to you. Let me, dear friends, organize my own thought. The first time I collaborated with an ethics committee left a deep impression on me. Before entering the meeting room, I started, dear friends, by signing a document stating that I had no projects submitted for funding, nor did I know anyone who had requested funding at that time. The members were from many European states. The training of the members was clearly above the average for the population, with all of them having postgraduate degrees. At that time, the scientific team's application process were not yet digitalized and were large, very large paper dossiers. It was not possible to take the application files to the hotel, to study them during the night, despite them being very, very large. Furthermore, if we wanted to drink water or coffee, the members of the ethics committee would not talk about the files drinking coffee. It was impossible. The only moment in which an exchange of views was allowed occurred during the debate around the table. A very structured and disciplined debate in which each member could only speak a few words, taking just a few minutes to express his opinion. As is plain evident, dear friends, no one gets rich from these participations in ethics committees because it is assumed that the monetary gain could bias the ethical discernment of the committee members. Decisions on projects were made in simple, very simple sentences, justified in short paragraphs. Phrases like this: there are no ethical issues in this project. It is recommended that the project be formulated. The reworked project is required to be presented again to another ethics review panel in the future. Sentences, very simple, like these ones. These sentences were accompanied by a collectively written document, the ethical report. The chairman of the panel of the review would suggest the beginning of a sentence, and the members of the committee would make contributions to that sentence and to the text. Everything seems simple, but as a matter of fact, dear friends, it is very enigmatic. Why I'm saying this, enigmatic? Enigmatic because in this context, there are practically no differences of opinion. As I said, I was very impressed when I first came across this way of proceeding. On the one hand, the strict protocols justified the good image that the committees have among the population. On the other hand, I felt at the time, and I still feel today, that this way of proceeding is a way of, Manuel, you should not say this to them. Is a way, I prepared this for them. Is a way of deceiving ourselves. I obviously did not participate in the first committees for the protection of human subjects of biomedical and behavioral research. In 1983, of course, I was too young. However, the first generation of ethics committees seems to be, from my point of view, very different from those that exist today. The protocols are now perhaps more rigorous than those of the first generation. But I think that we have lost something precious. What have we lost? We have lost the conviction that the ethics of science, organized in committees, has enough strength to be relevant. This is the case I want to present to you. Let's look, dear friends, at some aspects of the ethical review of science that we don't usually think about. I've selected half a dozen. This is the first one. What gave me a lot to think about was the observation that ethics committees operate according to rules that are very different from the normal way of life. Life, in general, is not anonymous. People are not devoid of interests, and in fact, each one of us has many, many interests. Dialogue between us is not restricted and disciplined, and people can speak their minds whenever they want and however they wish. Tasks and work are paid, and it is expected that with each work, people improve their previous state. As can be seen, the list of differences between ethics committees and life outside the committees is very, very long. All these aspects mean that societies have created, attention, Manuel, you are a philosopher, you should select the most precise words. Societies created, Manuel, created what? Societies created a friendly theater that simplifies human life. A friendly theater that simplifies human life. Anonymous agents no one knows about. They are called, using this French word, the savants. Anonymous agents, wise persons, who do not earn money or fame, offer their time to reflect in the service of the community. How incredible this is. Anonymous persons. Of course, very wise persons, but anonymous. We don't know them personally. Is this the correct word? This simplification of life. Continuous other forms of simplification. Members can only comment on very specific projects, usually in simplified language. This is all very nice, altruistic, possibly meritorious. But we have to recognize that it is also very, very strange. What does a science ethics committee do? This is a good question. Manuel, tell us your answer. This is my answer. It simplifies the enormous complexity of subjects into short texts in very standardized language. We collectively believe that this enormous simplification of life will give us what? Manuel, tell us. This simplification of life and reality will offer us precisely what? And this precious word comes to our minds. This simplification will offer us wisdom in decision. Well, I don't believe so. It seems that way. Second strange characteristic of these ethical reviews. It's not just a question of language. The simplification of reality happens also in many other ways. In all the ethics committees in which I participated, an ethical debate, notice these words, my friends, an ethical debate never actually took place. I'm going to say this again. An ethical debate never actually took place. They are called ethical committees, but within them, no really debate take place. Members can only comment on document, project in front of them. Even worse, in the last committees I participated in, an international call in the area of neurosciences, the anonymity was complete, in the sense that I didn't get to know, notice this, anyone at all, including the other members of the committee. And in turn, the entire set of members did not meet the person who would represent the ethical reports to the funding agency. It is a complete atomization of procedures. Nobody knows nobody. How can this be? It was impossible for me to see, to talk to other fellow colleagues of that committee. How is that possible? Not even to see, to say a word, nothing. Complete anonymization of the procedure. As can be seen in some ethics committees, the simplification of reality touches the absurd. Members do not see each other. Members do not know each other. Members do not talk to each other. Members don't know if their opinions are going to be discarded or followed somehow. In addition, the ethical, I apologize for saying this French word, the ethical rapporteur himself only has a small number of characters to express his assessment about dear friends, half a page. All this is no longer absurd because no one talks about it. Citizens who pay taxes and believe there is ethical control over research would be very surprised if they learned about the simplification of the human experience by the most recent science ethics committees. I repeat, it is an atomization that has something surreal about it. Surreal, Manuel, only surreal, not only surreal, surreal and absurd. I felt like the characters of E.M. Foster's short story, The Machine Stops, written in 1909. I think many times, what would our lives be like if in television, in politics, in commerce, in love affairs, we adopted this communicational minimalism? Imagine this sentence in love affairs. Oh, my dear, I love you so much. I would really like to tell you how much I love you, but I only have 450 characters to do so. It would be absurd, completely absurd. But there is also a third strange characteristic in this review of science, ethical review of science. In committees, generalization of matters to the whole of society are not accepted. No generalization whatsoever. What should I do? I am a member to an ethical committee. What should I do? You should read the file and write 450 characters, period. No more. 450 characters. We can only talk about what is on the table. The project, the application, the micro issue. Just it, period. There would be many reasons to be surprised by this further simplification of reality. Starting with the fact that the same societies that are concerned with the promotion of the ethical review of science have at their core industries of death at the beginning of life, industries of death at the end of life. And obviously, in the middle, between the beginning and the end, under the protection of individual freedoms, they allow behaviors that would shame our ancestors, like, for instance, the pornography industry, just to give you an example. If we think about it, dear friends, the same societies that have ethics committees for science live as all societies have lived in the past. High homicide rates, war industry, legal institutions to control antagonisms between individuals, symbolic violence in cinema, symbolic violence in literature, symbolic violence in sports, symbolic violence in television series. There has been no moral progress for humanity. There has been no moral progress for humanity. Just turn on the television to see what's happening in front of your eyes. Life. Just turn on the TV set. It is difficult to explain how should I say this? The dissonance between the high ethical level of the committees and the low moral level of the societies to which they belong, which must be strongly controlled and monitored so that violence does not increase even further. The very same societies that have thousands of armed men and women in the police and military institutions, many of them with very high numbers of homicides and other serious crimes, are also the societies that saw fit to promote the friendly theaters of ethics committees for science. Dear friends, this, I want to find the right words, this dissonance is never explained. How can we explain this dissonance between a high moral level and a very low moral ground? Why is this happening? Where? On planet Mars? No. Here in Spain, here in France, here in the United States, in all Western countries. An incredible dissonance. A fourth point, complicating all of this, we have the idea that ethics committees help to ensure that technical and scientific advances do not cause future harm to community, especially irreversible harm. However, dear friends, when we actually check the historical sequence of events, we discover that this belief is possibly unfounded. There is, as far as I see it, there is no technology or scientific advance that has been forever prevented by ethics committees. If we read documents just a few decades old, we will see that some procedures were, at that time, were impossible. Decades later, no one talks about it anymore. There is no need to talk about countries do not have legislation that prohibits many types of research. I remember, dear friends, reading documents that stated that it was impossible to create chimeras and hybrids. In one of the last committees I participated in, there were projects that used pluripotent cells, stem cells, and implanted human organoids in mice. There are nowadays hybrid beings with human and rodent traits. It is not science fiction. Hybrids are among us. It is clear that these hybrid beings will be euthanized at the end of scientific experiments. But philosophically, at least, the idea, not the fact, but the idea that hybrid beings exist is unsettling. Even more disturbing is seeing that many projects that present themselves as scientific and only scientific are in fact not scientific at all, but derive from what, Manuel? Please tell us. they derive from the activist mentality of our age. There are many projects that are justified by global political measures, such as the Millennium Goals, sustainable development, and the notion that health has to do with well-being. This is no scientific statement. This is no science. This is a philosophical view of mankind. The members of scientific teams, as they have not studied intellectual history, think that everything in life must obey science, naively believing that the activism they support is obvious to all rational people. It is not. Intelligent researchers do not have the slightest suspicion about the ideological construction of all those concepts. The boundary between fundamental science and social and political activism is unclear. The mantras are repeated many times. This mantra, for instance, translating policy into research. Or this second mantra, translating research into policy. And I wonder, is this indeed science? Is this good science? Or it is only activism? We want to change everything. There is a social institution, you should change the institution. There is a tradition, you should kill that tradition. We should change, we should change, we should change. This is no science. This is activism. We are being trained in order to change everything. Today, dear friends, it's practically impossible to separate both fields, science and activism. Projects are often based on agendas, concepts, and public policies promoted by international institutions or NGOs that promote forms of activism. The combination of science and activism is not justified. Members of a science ethics committee are often unable to know whether a project is simply scientific or whether it is a form of political activism. It is impossible to tell which is which. It is impossible to tell. Just one example. In 1948, the World Health Organization launched the concept of health as a form of well-being. We recall the 1948 constitutions of the World Health Organization. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Obviously, it is a philosophical concept and an agenda for reorganizing society in such a way that health becomes the center of people's and countries' lives. This is no science at all. There is no science in well-being. It is activism guided by a certain philosophical conception. Plain and pure activism, not a fundamental statement about the structure of our universe. Health in the center of our lives, it is absurd. Health is a minor detail. The centers of our lives are relationships, existence, love, whatever. Health, the center of everything we do in society. Health is a minor detail. But of course, this minor detail is important to pharmaceuticals and big businesses. Every year, dear friends, every year, dear friends, thousands and thousands of scientific projects apply for funding on this type of activist agenda. Many examples of this set of situations could be given. Committee members think with some naivety that they are only reflecting on scientific applications. But, in fact, they are adopting activist agendas and philosophical conceptions of reality that, as authors, we do not know. If the members, I'm thinking aloud in your presence, if the members of these committees show to others doubts about the scientific basis of this, how can I call it, of this ideology, it is likely that they will not have sufficient characters to express their thoughts. And it is also likely that they will not be understood by the institutions that promote the ethical evaluation of funding applications. Everything indicates that if someone questions these hidden agendas in scientific projects, that person will not be invited again to that ethics committee. Are you questioning if this is fundamental science? I mean, well, we no longer need your presence here in this committee. Dear friends, I mentioned it, the simplification of language and protocols a moment ago. But there is also, tell us, Manuel, there is also what? There is also a simplification of the thinking itself. Not only of procedures, but also of the way you think about reality. We are being encouraged in order to think in a simple fashion, as if we were, how the Americans say, morons. As if we were morons. Many things are silenced. There are ethics committees that publish their opinions, these divergent opinions of the members, wish to leave a written record of their differences. The problem is that the connection between activism and science is so profound that few people are aware of it. As if this state of affairs were not already embarrassing and even worrying enough, the international organizations that we esteem have supported the creation of ethics committees and the publication of ethical reports. The problem, dear friends, is that when we actually read those reports, we see that under the guise of the title ethical report, those institutions are promoting certain agendas. I know perfectly well that this accusation is very serious. Let me give you just one example. Just one. A very straightforward example. Just one. I allow myself to take as a reference of this debate the document that the institution that we love, UNESCO, we love UNESCO, published in 2021, UNESCO recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence. It is a very important document. The UNESCO recommendation, superficially appearing to be a reflection on the consequences and ethical limits of artificial intelligence, is, in fact, Manuel, you should not say this to them. UNESCO is very important. Please silence your thought. No, I don't want to silence. The UNESCO recommendation, superficially appearing to be a reflection on the consequences and ethical limits of artificial intelligence, is, in fact, a promotion of artificial intelligence. I am sure that these words will merit skepticism from people who, having heard the title of the UNESCO recommendation, have not actually read the document. If they had read it, they would find, for example, the following sentence. For instance, a sentence from paragraph 81 of the document. Member states should work, I'm quoting the document, member states should work to, notice the verb, to promote international collaboration in artificial intelligence research and innovation. Notice the verb, to promote, including research and innovation centers and networks. End of quotation. As you can see, the verb I used previously, to promote, is not mine. It is what in the UNESCO document itself is written. Dear friends, we would expect ethics, but we find, Manuel, please don't utter this word, okay? We would expect ethics, but we find propaganda. Notice the verb to promote under the guise of ethical evaluation. To promote, a technology that is probably more dangerous than nuclear technology. Imagine a life controlled by algorithms of artificial intelligence. It would be a nightmare. Our most beloved UNESCO is promoting this inferno. We love UNESCO. It is a very important institution. What is happening in UNESCO? Why they are disguising propaganda with ethics? Just a few more examples, because I'm seeing that you don't believe what I'm reading. Just a few more examples. To understand that the promotion is not partial, but total. It is about putting artificial intelligence in, notice the quantifier, put artificial intelligence in all walks of life, all areas of human activity. Paragraph 104. I'm quoting, artificial intelligence technologies in teaching. This Congress is dedicated to education. UNESCO wants to put powerful artificial intelligence algorithms even in education. It is incredible. In teaching, teacher training, electronic teaching, end of quotation. Even that incredible world of artists and musicians. The artists, even artists and other professionals linked to the creation of art, are encouraged to promote this verb again, to promote digital artificial intelligence education and training. For instance, paragraph 97. Member states should, the verb, that incredible verb, member states should promote artificial intelligence education for artists. Oh my God, for artists. Imagine Picasso with ChatGPT. Imagine Mozart needing ChatGPT. Imagine the great German philosopher Heidegger. I need a powerful algorithm. What is UNESCO doing? Propaganda, promotion of a very dangerous technology in every walk of life. I can offer you many examples. The bottom line is this. Dear friends, this is all unbelievable. As if it were, is this the right word, Manuel? As if it were a cancer that no one can stop. UNESCO is fully promoting artificial intelligence among the member states to include, should I say, to include everything. Notice the list written on the documents. Disciplines such as cultural studies, education, your education, my ethics, international relations, law, linguistics, philosophy, political science. Imagine future wars between Russia and Ukraine managed by algorithms. You should kill 10,000 soldiers, okay? Imagine this. We are building right now this future. UNESCO is leading us towards this future. We love UNESCO, but it is unbelievable. Let's see, dear friends, therefore, the complete picture of what UNESCO is proposing to us. Under the dubious cover of an ethical recommendation, the UNESCO document is, in fact, an artificial intelligence propaganda document with the aim of making this technology enter all areas of human life. The lie is a very little word, just 3 letters. The lie, little but powerful. The lie of pseudo-ethical reflection is used to promote a very dangerous technology. Dear friends, we are being, Manuel, don't say this in Vigo. We are being fooled. Someone listening to these words could say that even if you, Manuel, are right about the UNESCO documents, you mentioned it, this situation could not be generalized to other situations. Yes, Manuel, we're listening to you. Very dramatic, I'm seeing that. But of course, it is just a localized example. If someone in this auditorium has this kind of suspicion, I have the answer, okay? This is not true. That suspicion is not true at all. The problem is that the concept, any concept, institution, or order of values that hinders the cutting edge of science is at risk of disappearing. The simplified, do you remember that literary construction by the incredible English writer George Orwell? The simplified newspeak of our age, like an Orwellian construction at the end of the novel 1984, the simplified newspeak, new lingo we are talking and using in our daily lives, that science ethics committees use, is at war with many of our words. It is impossible, for example, to use the word soul, either in the few exchanges between members or in the ethical reports themselves. No one right now will utter here in the city of Vigo the word, hey, you have a soul in you. The word soul was robbed from us. As science does not recognize the category of the soul, the word is no longer understood. It disappeared. It was stolen from us. It's just not a question of the word soul. Many other categories are being deliberately excluded from our lives. The study of this process has already been done several times, with no public impact. No one knows about those studies. Why is this happening? The correct answer would be very long. But suffice it to say that people's perception of reality has been, notice the adverb, has been deliberately changed. We are being shaped by powerful forces. Why? We don't know. Notice this as a mere example. The work that the lady journalist Margaret A. Peters did in collecting values and concepts that, according to that lady journalist, are being fought by the various United Nations institutions. Many of these words, she wrote down a list of words. Many of these words can no longer be used in the newspeak of ethics committees. Words like husband, wife, spouses, art, conscience, reason, intelligence, will, complementarity, virginity. Who is still using the word virgin or virginity? The word chastity was robbed from us. Decency, joy, hope, democratic representation. Are we still using those concepts and words? This lady journalist does not include, as can be seen, the word soul, nor even the word ethics, and obviously the words honor and dignity. The word wisdom seems to have completely disappeared from our lives. Wisdom. Where is the word wisdom? Where is the word wisdom? Where is wisdom? I don't know. No one talks about wisdom in our countries, in our cities. That word is being robbed from us. Nobody, as far as I can see, nobody wants to be wise. Nobody. Nobody. Scientists don't want to be wise. University professors like me don't want to be wise. Politicians, of course, don't want to be wise. Judges in courtrooms don't want to be wise. They just want to be scientific judges. They even created a novel science of law. How is it possible? Even judges don't want to be like King Solomon. How is it possible? They do not know the meaning of that precious little word, wisdom. They don't know the meaning. They don't want to use the word. The word was robbed also from them. It is possible, this is my bet, it is possible that no person at this conference, no person in front of me, you, I'm talking about you, no person has ever wanted to be wise in their own life. Dear friends, we have been robbed of the idea of wisdom. We have been robbed. We have been robbed. Our lives are strangely simple affairs, simpler every new day. No one wants to be wise. Of course, many people want to be rich, famous, remarkable, outstanding. But notice the absence. No one wants to be wise. Your girlfriend does not want to be a wise girlfriend. Your cousin does not want to be a wise cousin. Your neighbor, your whatever. No one. No one. It is not surprising, dear friends, that members of ethics committees do not need the word wisdom. These committees are playing the minor role of being representatives of various opinions from civil society. They are tools, not full persons. They need no word similar to wisdom. They are like actors. I'm a member to this ethics review panel. I'm playing a function. I'm not a full person. I have no soul. I'm just playing a role. It is unacceptable from my point of view. Maybe it is acceptable from your point of view, from mine point of view. This is a very strange order of affairs. Why is this happening in our beloved societies that we care so much about? There is talk about the disappearance of biological species. Oh my God. But it is curious, notice this, that few people talk about the disappearance of words, the disappearance of values, the disappearance of ideas, and the disappearance of concepts. We are always being fooled. Hey, there is a real crisis in environment. Many biological species are disappearing. Of course, that is important, but the strange disappearance of the mere idea of wisdom is also important. But nobody is talking about that issue. How is this possible? We promote many lifestyles, but when we study the lifestyles, we see that they are all the same. We have catalogs, like IKEA catalogs. We have catalogs of lifestyles. Should you be this? I want to be that, Daddy. We have encyclopedias of modern lifestyles, but they are all the same. They have this common characteristic. They all depend on the ideology that defends that our ego, something inside us, I don't know, in the head, in the liver, in the heart, somewhere, your ego and your opinions should be the center of your life. This is so poor. You are running a living, and your ego is in the center of it. So poor, so incredibly poor. How is it possible one live in this infinite and mysterious universe saying the verb I want, I crave, I desire, I, me. So poor. As if it were, oh boy, a nightmare of simplification of the human experience. So poor. The reflection, dear friends, that lady journalist and author Margaret Peters is completed, obviously, by a long list of new concepts that are being promoted, and none of which is known by our intelligence. Why we are promoting right now this new set of new values. For instance, these are the mantras, these powerful concepts. Globalization with a human face. Oh, how nice to listen to this. Globalization with a human face. World citizenship. How nice. Consensus. Sustainable development. Partnership for this, partnership for that, partnership in everything. Civil society, NGOs, good governance. Notice the difference, the slight difference. Not good government. No, the government concept is very old. You should destroy that old concept and refill that empty space with this new concept. Good governance, not government. Education for all, health, sexual and reproductive rights, human condition. Sexuality is part of our human predicament, our condition. Are envisioned, are interpreted right now as a question of rights, sexual and reproductive rights. How is this possible? Is my liver a question of rights? Are my fingers a question of rights? Is the red color of my blood a question of rights? Why are we seeing sexuality as a question of rights? This is like science fiction. Bad science fiction, of course. Dear friends, ethics committees are faced daily with proposals that are based on this new table of values. Supposedly, the committees serve to prevent damage that excess of technical scientific development could cause. Great, okay. It is to prevent. But many of the projects contribute right now, at this precise moment, are contributing to implementing a set of values that do not derive from society's intellectuals and public debate, but from very, very closed international organizations. A member of these ethical committees, as myself, who raises the question about this dangerous mix of science and these new values, will be quickly removed It's not just ethics committees, from local authorities, to television channels, to newspapers. No one criticizes this set of values. Who is criticizing in the public debate this new powerful phrase, sustainable development? Who is criticizing civil society? No one. No one. No one. No one. No one. We live, dear friends, in one of the poorest times of intellectual debate in the West. Many of our best philosophers limit themselves to commenting on current events, as if they were sophisticated journalists. The most profound philosophers of our time just comment current events. Just comment current events. No wisdom, no great ideas, just commenting on what happened somewhere in this planet. People, our grandfathers, in the 60s, in the 70s, not to mention in 19th century, would be shocked if they witnessed the poor level of our current intellectual debate. So poor. Universities. We love universities. Universities are being transformed into very large technical schools, and also do not promote great intellectual debates. In my own countries, many times I wonder if my country still has just one university. There are, of course, many dozens universities. But when we check, is it really a university or is it only a big technical school? The name is still among us, but the contents, the doings of that institution, the university, is still the same as the 19th century. No, it's something different, very different. We may have many experts in science, but we no longer have intellectually free people. I know that this is a terrible saying. We no longer have intellectually free people. Let's do the math on all this. At my own university, there is not just one ethics committee, one, notice the number, one, but 3 or 4, including a committee specializing in animal welfare. Incredible. It is a good university. 4 or 5 specialized ethical committees, even animal welfare committee. No one, as far as I can see, no one has asked animals what they think. But there are thousands and thousands of people who believe they know what animals think and feel. The status of animal was raised. The status of human being was degraded. There are nowadays very serious penalties that punish those who cause pain and discomfort to animals. But in most Western countries, abortion is not penalized. It would be interesting to know how future historians will describe this. Manuel, choose the right word. How future historians will describe these absurdities. This is absurd. Everything, dear friends, indicates that the construction of absurdity will not stop. I believe that it will not stop. And therefore, we should not be surprised if activist movements appear to defend the rights of stones, the rights of atoms, whatever. After all, many people have argued in the past that atoms are conscious. Our societies are contradictory and even absurd. Ethics committees share, of course, this absurdity. No ethics committees for abortion, but many animal welfare ethics committees. How strange for a philosopher this all is. You said strange. How absurd, Manuel, how absurd. Colleagues of mine who work on ethics committees specializing in data protection produce many documents against the spread of population control systems through video surveillance cameras. With this or that justification, all those opinions end up being useless. Our cities are being completely monitored by surveillance cameras. It is a small localized example of a pattern that is always repeating itself. Tell them about this pattern. This is the pattern. We pretend that ethical committees are in control, but they end up allowing everything and more. I need to end my reflection. To end, this is what I have to say to you. Dear friends, it is unlikely that this order of things will be changed in the future. Science ethics committees obviously have a very important role. I was a member to a number of them. I can see many positive aspects, namely this. Ethics committees in science play the old traditional role of, I apologize for using this beautiful French word, of savant, wise man in our own time. Second positive aspect of the ethical committees. They contribute to ensuring that research that could cause irreversible damage to people and societies do not take place immediately. They are playing a role as a border between possible damages and our lives. They have also an irreplaceable role in the training of the new generation of university students and scientists. It is a very positive role. And of course, they bring together people from different backgrounds, making them understand different points of view. 4, 5 important and positive characteristics. But I'm very skeptical about all this. But let not fool ourselves. These positive aspects are paid at a very high price. A very high price, Manuel. Yes, a very high price. namely the price of irrelevance. The price of irrelevance. When committees study research applications, most of the issues have already been decided previously. There is no 0 degree, no absolute beginning of reflection. If there is any debate at all, it will be marginal. I'm saying it again, the price of irrelevancy. And of course, the price of emptying functions. When you join those committees, it is now commonplace to receive a checklist or a small package of research legislation. There are, in fact, checklists of the legal requirements of investigation. In many committees, ethics has disappeared completely and has been replaced by just a word with 3 letters, by law. No ethics. It is a committee on ethics of scientific research, but the very issue is no longer ethics, it's something else, it's law. There are checklists. Hey, check if this application has forgotten about the informed consent form. A checklist, a plain checklist. I need to end my reflection. My dear friends, after this, how can I label this that I offer it to you after this disenchanted reflection? Someone in this auditorium could say, hey, Manuel, skepticism is understandable. However, we should bear in mind the praise that the French author and political philosopher Alexis de Tocqueville gave to Americans due to the esteem they showed for authors of the classical Greek and Latin tradition. That incredible 19th century author, Tocqueville, said that these authors are not perfect, but being imperfect, they nevertheless adapt to our own imperfections. And they are the ones who hold us close to the edge of the abyss. Dear friends, inspired by this profound page written by Alexis de Tocqueville, I could, in your presence, I could also say that science ethics committees are not perfect, nor are they above criticism, but being imperfect, they have shown themselves to be wonderfully suited to our collective imperfections. Despite the many weaknesses of ethics committees, I believe that we should deepen ethical reflection on science. Are there weaknesses in ethics committees? Of course there are. I mentioned only some. There will be others. But I believe we have enough wisdom to do better. We cannot throw away the word wisdom, my dear friends. Without the word wisdom, nothing makes sense. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Curado. It's a pleasure to listen to you.